All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome into Through the Garden. Tommy, Alex, Jordan. Here we are. We're here on a beautiful, beautiful August Wednesday afternoon, evening.
Feels like football.
Feels like football. We have a lot of football to talk about today. We got Hard Knocks. We got some stuff at Bears camp. We got a Cubs game to talk about. We got the Sox won a game. So
Oh,
we we have a lot going on. We have a lot going on to
outside
talk
stand
about.
up.
Yeah. So I was on the Chicago CHGO Cubs podcast last night after the game. I went and watched the game with them. And then I got home and I could not what excuse me. Also I'm dealing with asthma, so I'm sorry everybody. Um I got home and I could not sleep until I watched Hard Knocks. And then I watched Hard Knocks and I couldn't sleep because I was so hyped. Like I just had a ball watching that thing. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, how are we feeling?
good. It was a fun episode. Yeah, I mean it wasn't Bears up. The only awkwardness was probably Kevin Warren talking about going over a contract that was probably already agreed to. Other
That
than
was
that,
weird.
yeah. Other than that, it was a fine first episode.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we as fans can watch the episode knowing that this is just one of, a number of episodes. So there was a lot of things that we want to see that we weren't going to realistically see right away. There were a few points in the episode that I think were really important, just as an observer of the Bears and being a Bears fan. And I do like the fact that our first episode it sounds weird, but some people are saying, "Wow, we're going to be showing the lowlights and the questions right away about Caleb Williams." But I do think it's a humble reminder that Caleb Williams is a rookie. He's got all the expectations in the world, and he is a rookie, and there's going to be a lot of growing pains. And I think that the most intriguing person they had on episode one was Nick Saban, and obviously his connection with Matt Eberflus, and he was making those points about which I think is there's some validity to it, some I would argue against, but you're looking at the whole scope of Caleb Williams and you realize, yeah, he's a rookie, he's going to go through it. It's not always going to be rainbows and sunshine with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right on. It was fun. I mean, I didn't know really what to expect because I've never the Giants leading up to the draft. That's the only Hard Knocks experience I have. So, um,
And it's a
yeah,
little different.
yeah, I didn't really
Yeah.
even have any expectations going into it. So, but I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. Just the intro with Caleb getting drafted, and then the Bulls thing when he was running onto the field, like
With Ray Clay,
I
yeah.
was ready to
That's
just run
perfect.
through a brick wall. Like that was just so cool. And then, yeah, seeing him struggle. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. It's gonna be a
Oh, you're
thing.
good.
Uh,
We got you.
yeah. So, seeing him struggle a little bit was cool because you saw him take ownership in his struggles. He was like, "That's on me. I'm gonna be better." So I really like that as a leader. Seeing the DJ Moore contract thing happen was kind of cool, and seeing him interact with Keenan Allen was fun. So, yeah, overall, I don't. I some people were saying that people really didn't like the first episode, but I didn't really know what there wasn't to like. I mean, it's just a reality TV show.
Yeah, I mean, I think if if you're like us and if you're a diehard Bears fan, you kind of have to realize that Hard Knocks isn't for the diehard Bears fan. It's for the national fan. So that's why, like they were talking about on the score today, you're going to get these Chicago tropes in that first episode because if you're a national sports fan and you think of Chicago, you think of deep dish pizza, you think of the Chicago Bowl. So you have to have those connections. But honestly, even as three people that are in the weeds, as the three of us are, I thought there was plenty to like from that episode.
I had fun watching it. I
Yeah, it
like
was
I said. I
enjoyable.
mean, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I don't really know what to expect going forward. I assume that we're gonna see like more preseason games and there's going to be cuts and stuff, but seeing them
Oh,
have to seeing them have to do their like performances for the rookies, that was funny. I mean,
Yeah.
harmless fun. So yeah.
Hand up, I have to apologize to Jonathan Owens. When he was on the Packers last year, he kind of made headlines of like talking down about his wife Simone Biles, and everyone's like, "Bro, it's Simone Biles." But then, like, actually seeing the relationship that they had, and actually seeing the love and support that he has for Simone, that was probably my biggest takeaway from the episode. Is those two, they might actually make it in this world.
Well, they are already married, aren't they? They are married,
Hey,
or they're
Yeah,
getting married.
celebrity marriages tend to not
right.
last, but
I don't
you
know.
know,
Like, how much can you attribute to that in the locker room? Like being a Green Bay Packer, like he came to
That's
Chicago. He's
true.
just a better
That's
person
true.
now. So,
Hey, that's also true. That's
and
also true.
I wonder if the Packers would have let him go and be a supportive
No,
husband, or if they're like, no, you have to not be a supportive husband. So he was groomed by the Packers to be a terrible person. I don't know, but we saved him, so it's fine. Can't wait to see him in
I
camp.
agree.
you talk about personality and you talk about kind of the culture that they set. And I think that a lot of people, including myself, were really curious to see what we saw from Matt Eberflus behind the scenes. And
Hmm.
we've seen this character transformation where, again, like I said, the first 2 years, that's like he's a guy where if I saw him walking down the street, I wouldn't think twice of who that was. Like he seemed like, especially in his first year, I'm like, this is a guy you barely notice. And frankly, in 2022, with all the storylines in that first year, Matt Eberflus, I felt like was barely part of the conversation. He's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's kind of the head coach. Last year, that changed a little bit with just the goods and the bads, especially the bads that happened. But I've said this before. I'm still not fully sold on the guy as a head coach, but at least I see a more polished person as a whole. I think his public speaking sounds better. I think obviously it doesn't win you more football games, but having more of a persona I think can help you connect with people more. And he's had this insane glow up. He's got the beard like Ryan Reynolds. He's got this new wardrobe. He seems like a completely different person when you just look and hear him. Now you just hope he grows as a head coach, because the biggest sin of last year, and there were many, but the biggest sin of last year was how ill prepared you were for week one. And that bled into multiple weeks. We started 0-4. You don't just go from being completely unprepared to week one to being a great team. We saw that last a few weeks. That's the thing that just has to be so much better. But you saw kind of a retransformed Matt Eberflus. I'm curious to see more of that as we go in this series.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited to see where we go with that. The barbershop thing was kind of weird.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was kind of
there's
weird.
some. Yeah, I mean, there's some parts that just feel forced, and it's
Of
going to
course.
happen. Yeah, it's going to happen in a documentary. But yeah, I mean, just seeing the difference, like they were saying, they showed a clip of him talking with Ron Rivera, the then Commanders coach, and seeing him in that video against who, seeing him now, like you said, Alex, it's a completely different person. I think we're seeing why the players in the locker room have always had his back. So if we get through the next 5 weeks after this episode and we're like, that's why Eberflus is still here, cool. And they're talking about on the score about if the Bears go 7-10 this year, Eberflus is fired. I really don't think Eberflus's job is in that much of jeopardy. The only way I would push back against it is if the ceiling or is if the floor just completely goes from underneath this team. Otherwise, I think by them passing up on Mike Vrabel, by them passing up on Bill Belichick, by them not throwing the bag at Ben Johnson, I think they chose Eberflus as their guy last offseason, and I don't think there's going to be much that changes that this season.
I do think context would matter. If you told me that they're 7-10, why were they 7-10? Did Caleb Williams get hurt? Did a
Right,
number of players get hurt? Or did they just not
right.
play well enough? Because I mean, listen, if God forbid, if Caleb Williams suffered a major injury and you had to play most of your year with a backup quarterback, that's just shit luck. That's pure shit luck right there.
Well, Alex, I could
We're
tell
not
you had
doing
no,
that, Alex.
and I can tell you had no takeaway from the Hall of Fame game with Brett Rippon looking like the next Tom Brady.
Oh boy. Oh yeah.
Looking like the next tribal chief to me.
And they
Shout out
talked
to
about
Brady.
him. They talked about them. They talked about the Hall of Fame game. They talked about all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
yeah, going back to Eberflus, it also seems like the players really like Matt Eberflus.
Yeah.
Like they
Mhm.
seem like they
Yeah.
get along with him very, very well.
Yeah, I
So
don't question his establishing of a good culture in a locker room. I don't question that at all. It's the football. It's the actual football aspect of it
Oh, it's
that we
true.
don't,
It's
you
true.
know, that I question and I'm not sold on yet. But as a leader of men and someone that establishes a good culture, yeah, I don't question that.
and I love
Oh,
that he's got the connection with Nick Saban. Like if
Yeah.
you want
oh my,
somebody on your side
oh my
in
God.
football, Nick Saban's probably the top of the list.
Strong connection too. It's not just like, oh, hey, we
Right.
work together. It's a significant connection. If you read Nick Saban's book, he's mentioned the Eberflus is mentioned quite a bit. So it's a strong
Oh,
connection.
yeah. I mean, when I was watching as an Alabama fan and I saw the program come through the doors at House Hall, oh my God, I was ready. Bring on college football. Bring on Saturdays. Bring on Sundays.
Yeah, we got college football coming up in a couple weeks. So
Yay, Illini, yay.
I might go to an Illini game this year. I have a buddy, his name's Nick.
There you go.
Shout out Nick. He goes to
Shout out
Illinois,
Fighting Illini.
and we're gonna try to go to an Illini game down there. Even though I'm a Michigan State guy, I will go to bat for my guy Nick. So
There you go.
Unless they're playing Michigan State, because I think Illinois is hosting Michigan State. This
yeah, I've
year.
done that before at East Lansing. I watched Michigan State versus Illinois. Michigan State had a 28-point lead, and they lost. So
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
in those stupid like bright green uniforms
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Well, the game I remember, the a good Illinois memory I have, it was 2019, and it was fourth down. We were down to our last down, and I can't remember our quarterback, but he just bombed like a Hail Mary pass for like a 50-yard completion, and it set up the game-winning touchdown late. That was the one year that Lovie Smith brought the Fighting Illini to a bowl game.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. 2019.
I think that was
Yeah.
the year I went to that game. So yeah, thanks a
welcome.
lot.
You're welcome.
Jordan, do you root for a college football team? Oh,
Alabama.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Alabama. Yeah.
No. Nope.
All right.
Very excited
Sorry,
for the
boys.
season. I'm excited but nervous because I think Alabama is better than some of the preseason rankings. I mean, I know that I think some have them 3, some of them 4, some have them 6. But ESPN was like, "Does Alabama have a path to the college football playoffs?" I'm like, "Well,
They're
Alabama."
Alabama.
I was about to say, usually Alabama wakes up with a
Yeah.
path to the college football playoffs. But no, it'll be exciting for us here under Kalen DeBoer. I'm a little bit worried about the secondary, but hopefully that gets fixed.
I mean, coaches poll, they're in 5th. It's Georgia, Ohio
you go.
State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama. So
Yeah, there you go. And Alabama, I mean, obviously they have some key SEC games. But other than that, like they have a lot of get right games on their schedule. So I'm not too
have you
worried.
guys seen the new Big Ten map commercial?
It's insane. It's such a joke.
Big 10, yeah.
Yeah.
More like Big
It's
20
such a
at
joke.
this rate.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
It was
guess what?
So funny.
You have to
Go
go
ahead.
from LA to play Rutgers. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great logistics.
No, it's
I really wanted either Ohio State. I'm sorry, USC or UCLA to have to go to Northwestern's temporary stadium up there, but it's not happening this year. That would have been just. I mean, can you imagine? Like 10 years ago, you say, "Hey, Northwestern doesn't have a stadium, and they're going to host USC." Like, can you imagine?
No, yeah, it's wild.
I'm
yeah.
kind of intrigued. I almost want to see a game at that temporary stadium for shits and giggles.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's
Ohio
certain
State
schools-
goes there. They're going to have some good games there, or they're going
Yeah,
to have some.
there's
Let me
certain-
rephrase. They're going to have some good teams coming to town.
Yeah, there's certain experiences that you want to experience. I think this would be one of them. Yeah, it should be interesting.
It's not a luxury experience, but it's an experience.
No.
It was like if in 2002, if you went down to watch a Bears home game in Champaign, God,
What
that
a
would
miserable
never,
year! What
never
a
happen
miserable
today.
year!
The
That
team
Yeah.
was awful. You had to play in a stadium that was, and I love going down to Illinois for games, but there's a difference between college football and the NFL.
Yeah,
a big difference. Yeah.
Just
That
a
was
bit.
pre-renovated Memorial Stadium too.
Well, we may have to do it again here in a couple of years, so don't knock it.
No
you know?
way they're doing that again. No way
Yeah.
they're doing
Did you
that
guys see
again.
the Oregon Duck on Pat McAfee this week?
I saw that. Yeah,
Oh, hilarious!
that was good. That
So
was good.
funny.
I
I'm
didn't
glad, or Jordan. I'm glad you said that you watch McAfee because it's because of you that I started watching him. I can't get enough.
Oh,
Pat
it's good.
McAfee.
Yeah.
Like my original thought for Pat McAfee was, okay, you talk to Aaron Rodgers once a week, so I hate you. But now that it's not
Yeah.
football season, they don't talk to him. I'm like, this guy rules.
No, yeah, because his Rogers' final season with the Packers, when like we had to get the updates on the McAfee show, is when I first like you. I would just turn in for the Rogers interview, and then like I would leave it on in the background, and I would find myself like, oh, this guy's actually pretty fucking hilarious.
And having
He's
him in
hilarious.
wrestling is just a pure
Oh my God.
luxury. I don't get
It's
why
great.
people hate him. He is so funny.
It's
He
great.
like he is a professional wrestling fan. You know?
Yeah,
Like he
it's
plays it as a fan and
Yeah.
just says how he's gonna be electric on Netflix.
no,
He's
yeah, I
got the
can't.
life made. Like he makes all this money from this podcast. He has all these listeners. I mean, you have a number of decent podcasts, but Pat McAfee's podcast, like that's like a syndicated show on television in the prime
Oh
days of
yeah, I
television.
mean, yeah,
I mean, ESPN hates having him on, but they know that they get hella ratings, so
Oh,
they
yeah.
can't take him off.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
about
no.
money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
also, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah. I mean, he changed the game in terms of when it comes to sports podcasts. He took his YouTube show, made bank at Spotify. Now he's making bank with ESPN. So yeah, salute to Pat.
And also, speaking of wrestling, our tribal chief is home.
Oh my god,
I don't know
That-
what's going on here.
that spear that he hit on Solo.
If
Took the
you
same-
like a perfectly executed spear is my favorite move in
Right.
wrestling.
Yeah,
There's nothing better than it because
I mean-
and sometimes you hear a clap and then
Yeah.
like the hitting oh my god.
yeah, no, oh my god, yeah. Tribal Chief is back, so peace should be restored soon.
Alex, thoughts?
I was watching the Chicago Dogs when that happened.
Did they win?
They did. They were
Oh,
down 4-0.
yeah.
They had one hit going to the fifth, and then they scored 13 runs.
Yeah, because
Do you guys
incredible.
remember? Do you guys remember a Cubs outfielder? He was here very, very briefly. What was his name? Well, they also had Brian Schlitter on the team. Fun fact. You remember?
Here, I'll
Brian
look up
Schlitter?
I'll look up their roster right quick.
Yeah. It wasn't Esteban Quiroz. It was boy, I'm totally blanking on his name now. I think he was here after the sell-off in 2021. It was
It's an outfielder, you said?
an outfielder, yes.
All right, I'm looking.
I think he was their cleanup hitter that night too.
You talking about John Baker?
No.
Ooh,
Wasn't he a Cub?
He was.
he was. Yeah, he was.
He was a catcher.
No.
He pitched.
Oh, I was
the,
looking. That was. I'm looking at pictures. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Nick D'Alessandro.
No,
That name sounds familiar.
not him.
Johnny Turbo and
Nope.
Narciso.
Crook. That was who it was.
Oh,
I
Right.
have never heard of that man in my life.
It was on the Cubs. I think it was 2021.
Really?
The name-
Oh, then I feel like an idiot.
The name sounds familiar. Although hand up, I tuned out of the 2021 season after the deadline. So
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched that Frank Sundell shit, man.
no, absolutely not. I'm sorry. I am Kendrick Lamar levels of hate when it comes with Frank Schwindel. I could not stand that story. Every time I saw that goofy looking face on the Wrigley Field screen, it just made me so mad. It made me so mad.
Sorry, it was
The happiest-
2022 he was here. Go ahead, Jordan. I'm sorry.
The happiest day of my life was when he was DFA'd. I was so happy. I was like,
Yeah,
thank
it was
God.
time. It was time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
time.
Anyways, the Cubs, they have won 3 or 4.
Yeah,
against
I mean, like I said,
2
I
or
was
3 against
on
Minnesota.
CHGO's post game last night, which, by the way, their headquarters is incredible. Shout out
Yeah,
Cody
that's
and
sick.
Kevin for having me on, and then shout out Sarah, who is their producer. She is
Yeah.
she's a wizard
There
on
we go.
the keys, man. She just had that thing rolling, and I had
Yeah.
I was I was losing my train of thought because I was so focused on like, holy crap, this girl is incredible at
Yeah.
producing. So shout out Sarah if you're listening. That was awesome. But just being there was very, very cool. Just it
Congrats
was
again,
really
man. That's awesome.
just sitting and talking ball, watching the game with the boys, you know. It was just
Yeah.
fun. So but that being said, are the Cubs fun? I'm having fun.
Yeah, Alex, I was going to quote tweet a tweet you mentioned today about the Cubs. So I was like, wait, we do a podcast. Let's save the discussion for the podcast.
I think I
So,
know which
Alex,
tweet you're referencing.
yeah. So, Alex, did you want to pull up the tweet and then we can talk about it?
Let's see if I can find it and I'll do the screen share thing.
And let me make sure, just confirming, are we talking about the one about the health of the organization?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very, very glad you brought that up because I
Yes.
did want to talk about that.
Yes.
Is this
Okay.
a thread?
Yes.
Technically, it is. I added a
All right.
second thought to it, so I
Here,
guess you could
I'm
call
putting
it a
it
thread.
I'm putting it up on the screen right here.
Great.
Here we go.
Share.
Okay. So this was something that I was thinking about. You know, I missed most of the game today. I was working. I saw the very end after work, and then I had to go out and grab some dinner. I didn't have dinner for the night, so I was just I was thinking about this while I was in the grocery store. I'm like, listen, through all the frustration and the flaws of the actual roster itself, and how we question how this team was built, the organization itself is quite healthy when you consider the fact that you have a good infrastructure. Facilities is a big part of that infrastructure. The Cubs have top notch facilities, and we have Theo Epstein to thank for all of that because what people might not, I mean, I think a lot of people remember, but you really have to go back and look and go back to the Chicago Tribune days. That team was stuck in the Stone Age. The facilities were embarrassing from top to bottom. And you had a high school like locker room, and you didn't have anywhere near the sophistication that you have today in terms of facilities. You have a clear structure of hierarchy. Even if the hierarchy doesn't always make the best decisions and they're not the best at their job, you're not sitting there and saying, well, who's actually in charge? Who's making the decisions? Is it the owner? Is it this guy? Is it this guy? We know who the decision makers are, for better or for worse, but there are teams in baseball where you don't have that clarity. Obviously, the farm system is a big talking point, and this organization, it kind of goes along with the infrastructure. It really embraces modern thinking, modern technology, again, part of the infrastructure, and just embracing modern ideas. Not all teams do that. What matters is winning games. You're not winning enough games at the end of the day. And it's not to say I trust this team to be a contender or that this team is good enough. It's not. But the organization itself is healthy. That's why this is honestly makes this whole thing more frustrating, is because you have a healthy organization. You don't have what appears to be a massive pile of dysfunction. You don't have a Jerry Reinsdorf owned team. You don't have a John Fisher A's team. You don't have a Marlins team that just got rid of a legitimately great front office person in Kim Ang for all these other reasons. You have a healthy organization. You just don't have the right philosophy. You haven't made all the right decisions, and your evaluation is off with some of your roster construction. It's just too bad. It's too bad that you have a lot of resources and you're well put together as a structure, but you just aren't executing where it matters most. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I saw the tweet, it stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, damn, that's spot on. And kind of what I've been thinking, especially in May and June, when the Cubs are truly in the pitfall. Everyone talks about, oh, Jed Hoyer has set this organization back a decade, or this team's not going to be good in 3 to 5 years. There's no truth of that. I mean, look across town if you want to see president of baseball operations truly set their organization back a decade. And all the points you laid out about why the Cubs are a good organization is why, at the very least, in each season, they're more times than not going to reach their floor. The Cubs' floor is what it was last season, is probably what it will end up this season, about an 80 to 83 win team. The reason why they'll never exceed that threshold of a team that just reaches their floor is because of the point you laid out, their roster construction. The Cubs built a roster off of players that are good, but players that have to have success on the margins. When those players enter a regression as collectively, and when you don't have anyone within your starting lineup have a career year, this is what leads to you being bad in May and June for as long as you were. And now we always said that the Cubs weren't as bad as they were playing in May and June. We're seeing that correct now. I think it's too late,
It
but
is too late. Yes.
but it is fun at the very least. And what gives me hope is the Isak Paredes trade, because that is a move of Jed Hoyer realizing that one of his philosophies when it comes to position players was drastically wrong. He loved Morel for the profile that he had in terms of being a prolific power hitter, but we haven't seen it. He shifted to Isak Paredes, who's yes has power, but he's also more on base. He's going to give you a healthier at bat. Paredes seems to finally be clicking now, but as a whole, we've been seeing the past couple of weeks how he lengthens that lineup. I think the Cubs, since the trade, as an offense, are averaging 6 runs per game, which is great.
The at
And
bats are good even when he doesn't get on base. I mean, I think it was Friday's game when the Cubs were facing Eric Fetty, and that whole rally started because Paredes had like a 10-plus pitch
yeah,
at bat against him. And even though he didn't get on, it kind of got into Fetty's head, kind of tired him. And then next thing you know, they kind of went on this run barrage where they made him throw a million pitches. That stuff
yeah.
matters.
And that's the shift that we have to continue to see from Hoyer this offseason is he can't be steadfast on his previous ideologies that got the Cubs to this point. He has to change. If he doesn't change, then that's where we get into Tommy's line of thinking, well, okay, if Hoyer's going to continue to be the president of baseball ops, this team is never going to take the next step forward. Instead, they'll be where they are now, a good organization with a flawed major league roster that would never reach their true potential.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that the Cubs have no desire to be a number 1 or number 2 seed, because all you have to
Yeah.
do is get in the playoffs and then anything can happen with this expanded playoff. So
Right.
they're like, I don't need to buy wins. I just need to stay like within 5, 6, 7 games of a wild card spot, division if it can, and then just capitalize when it matters. And it came close to working last year, and it didn't. And we're seeing the beginnings of maybe it coming close again this year. I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit last night because I was just happy we won. And I mean, we won today too. And it was my 100th game at Wrigley Field, and it was incredible. I did my Wilt Chamberlain picture. But yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing your tweet, Alex, and it's dead on. You're absolutely right. They're just they're okay with being in the middle, and
Yeah.
that stinks when you're top 3 market in baseball.
Of course. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that you can have all these resources. It's frustrating that you do so much right, but it doesn't matter if you're not doing enough right, or you're just you don't have the right philosophy in a number of places. And because I mean, listen, so much of Cubs futility in its history is because you were not a well-run organization. You didn't know what you were doing. There was a time where this organization said, "Hey, we're going to have a college of coaches, and our athletic director is going to be a colonel from the military." I mean, you don't see that crap from the Chicago Cubs anymore. And I mean, you can look at the days even towards the end of the Tribune era when you had Andy McPhail and you had Jim Hendry. It's like, listen, those were well-meaning guys. They really, really were, and they tried their hardest with what they could. But what ownership didn't provide was the ability to join the next century. I mean, go back to Wrigley Field in the 2000s. Look at the facilities that they had, whether it was the clubhouses, whether it was the broadcast, whether it was just the concourse itself, you were looking at janky box TVs from 1989 showing you replays on the concourse. You had concrete falling on people's heads. You had season ticket holders, I think, still getting like punch card ticket. Like they didn't even have computers. It was so out of date when the Ricketts took over. And you have all these resources now. You feel like you should be great every year. You know, it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. It's the Chicago Cubs. But I will say, the team that's on the field right now, we're seeing Nico and Dansby and PCA like really coming together in the 6, 7, 8 hole. Like that's been cool to see these last few games. PCA, he led off an inning today and he got a hit and then he ended up on third very quickly. That's what I want to see. I want to see him lead off. And we got some power with Happ and Bush today, which is always good to see. And say DH'd, and I loved it. I loved him in the DH. It felt good.
He's good in the DH.
He was 0 for 3, but whatever.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I mean, as fun as the St. Louis series was, as fun as the Minnesota series was, if you look at the wild card race, it's not as much the games as much as it is how many teams you have to climb. And right now, you're looking at 7 teams. But what I just want to do a quick rundown is let's look at the teams. Arizona Diamondbacks, 63-52.
They're on fire right now.
And we know that is the blueprint that the Cubs have. They more or less have set it, because if you look at that Diamondbacks roster from a position player standpoint, they have lots of good players. You thought Corbin Carroll was going to be the one who truly ascends into that superstardom this year. He struggled this season, but because of their aggressiveness with their roster, how they address trades, how they address signings, they're still there. The San Diego Padres, do they have a superstar? Yes. The Atlanta Braves, do they have a superstar? Yes. The New York Mets, do they have a superstar? Yes. The St. Louis Cardinals, do they have a superstar? Yes. The Giants and Pirates, you kind of can't say
Skeens
they have
is a superstar.
Yeah, Skeens.
Blake Snell?
Yes, Skeens. They have the pitchers. They have superstar pitchers, and that's kind of what's scaring them. My point is, though, once you get to the Cubs, and Tommy, for as great as it's looked, your statement just made my point, because you're talking about the Cubs 6, 7, and 8 hitters doing things.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know.
This is why we're here, because we're depending on Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, and Pico Armstrong to be great at the bottom of the order instead of having that superstar bat.
I'm not arguing with you. Not at all. You're both were excellently correct tonight.
Thank you.
Nothing to say.
Hey, how about that? Look at us.
Yeah, no further
Look
notes.
at us.
Yeah. White Sox this weekend, you just feel like we're going to lose one of them.
Oh, I know. I know.
I've been thinking about it. So I'm glad they actually won last night.
Me too,
so
bro.
am I.
Me
I
too.
was relieved.
I thought for sure if they were going into Friday with the losing streak still going, like, damn, they're going to win that game.
Absolutely. 100%.
I still think the Cubs are probably going to drop one of the two now.
Feels like it.
Yeah, but yeah. I think, Alex, you're working on something for tomorrow, but this crosstown series is yikes.
I hate crosstown so much.
So do I. It's my least favorite time of the year. It really, really is.
Yeah, now it's just all over the place. We used to know when it was going to be. Now we don't.
I kind of liked it when it was like an early 4-game series where I could be like, all right, just rip the Band-Aid off. Get it over with.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't care as much if it was like in the first month of the season, because that first month of the season is filled with outrageous takes anyways. So that's
interleague play was always June, and June was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Oh, yeah, June's a fine. Yeah, June was a fine time for it. But yeah, I just can't wait to get these things.
Apparently next year we're doing 3-3.
Yeah, it's back to a 6-game format.
I like the 4 games better.
And I liked when we did, I think once, didn't we do 2 up here and then 2 down there in 4 consecutive days?
And
we did that a few times, yes.
Yeah, I would be in on that.
They did that like during the World Series year, it was that because it was 2 on the south side. We lost those 2, and then we won the next 2, and it was this opposite in 2017. It started 2 at Wrigley, then 2 on the south side, and then 2018 was 3 and 3. 2019, I believe, was 4 straight. Started with 2 at Wrigley, 2, and then it was 3 and 3 in 2020 and 2021. 2022, I that might have been 2 and 2 as well.
I think it
it's
was
been
2
all
and
over the
2, but
place.
they were all over the place. I
Right,
don't think
right.
it was consecutive.
Yeah.
Same thing with last year. It was 2 and 2 last year because you had the first 2 on the south side. The Cubs won those, and then it was the 2 and 2 at Wrigley where they split. So
Yep.
Well, while we're talking about the White Sox, they won a baseball game.
they
They beat
did.
the A's. They beat the A's. Good for them. I didn't
Yeah,
watch.
I mean, the White Sox just make news for anything but what they do on the field, and it's a shame where that organization has gone because Chicago thrives when both baseball teams are good. We know what's
Yes.
wrong. We know what's wrong with the Cubs. We know there's a path for the Cubs to fix it. Whether or not the Cubs go down that path is up to Hoyle. For the Sox, we know what went wrong.
Where are they going?
We don't know what the path is to fix it, and we sure as hell don't know if the Sox even know what the path is to fix it. And meanwhile, you have your broadcast announcer taking shots at local radio stations.
Yeah, that whole feud is so silly, and it's like,
No.
really?
And
Yep.
as in Pedro Gafol been fired like 6 times in the last week. Like I keep seeing reports. It was like, hey, he's
Off
gonna
day
be fired
tomorrow.
tomorrow. It's just
Off day tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean,
go out on a win.
well, I mean, I feel like
They lost today.
Yeah, they lost
Oh, tough. I
But
didn't
no,
know they
yeah.
already played.
I feel like they definitely weren't going to let him travel and then fire him once they got to Minnesota or once they got to Oakland. So if there is going to be a time to do it, it would be tomorrow. However, if I'm the White Sox, I would probably wait until the Sunday because then it's after the crosstown series, so you can avoid all the nonsense that is going to be there on Friday and Saturday, and just casually just drop that in the 5 p.m. press release.
Oh, but what if they fire Grifol on Friday? So then or tomorrow, Thursday. So Friday, Saturday in the Crosstown series, the Sox can have that quote temporary high that a lot of teams get when they get a new manager.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be September 8th, which is a Sunday. Caleb Williams is just about to take the field. The White Sox are going to send out a press release.
Amazing. Amazing.
Actually, you know what? A little interesting story. I don't know if you guys knew this. I mean, this was a year before I was born, but I rewatched the 1993 ALCS. So that the White Sox were in it, but everybody remembers that is when Jordan retired, right? Well,
Yeah.
the Cubs also let go of their manager during that. So you want to talk about burying
Clutch.
something when you have the other team in town playing for the pennant, and then you have the greatest competitor who ever lived, your most beloved ever athlete in your city, retire.
Clutch news
Also,
on-
the White Sox were definitely on a collision course to beat the Expos in the '94 World Series. And
Oh
that
yeah,
just
that
never
strike
happened.
really derailed what could have been an amazing White Sox team.
Yeah.
Truly.
And also, just for funsies, Eloy Jimenez is batting .500 with a 1.083 OPS in his 4 games and 12 plate appearances with the Baltimore Orioles. So don't tell me that the clubhouse doesn't matter.
That sounds about right. Sounds about right.
I don't. Why does Luis Robert Jr. want to play baseball right now? I'd
Doesn't
be
look
like,
he does all the
oh,
time.
my elbow
I
hurts.
was just saying, I don't really think he does. If you watch,
I mean,
For the most part,
like,
no.
if he faked an injury and he was like, I'm out for the year, would anybody blame him? Would anybody be mad at him?
No.
What
He's
did you
just
guys-
wasting. He's just wasting at this point.
Although
did you guys see
I
the
do
picture?
think he'll hit a 480-foot home run against the Cubs. But other than that,
Probably. Did you guys see the picture of Miguel Vargas after the Sox loss on Monday?
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
he's just sitting there depressed. It's like when you go from a legitimate World Series contender to literally a historically bad team. Poor guy.
That sucks. You had to know, like when he heard that trade, he was like, "Oh my god, this
Yeah,
is the worst. This is the worst thing that could
yeah,
have ever happened to me."
yeah.
Anyways, all right. Well, what else do we got, boys? Great Cubs takes tonight. Hard Knocks was fun. The Hall of Fame game, who cares? Bears were on the field playing football. We got a couple of breakout stars from it that we're gonna pretend they're gonna make a difference on this team. But yeah, football's back.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, honestly, I think next week's Hard Knocks is probably going to be the episode that truly Bears fans are going to enjoy because, I mean, if you look at just Matt Eberflus's press conferences this week alone, he's pretty much made it clear with Nate Davis. We have to start to see you practicing. Otherwise, you're losing your starting job. And
Yeah.
here's the thing we see it all the time in training camp and preseason. There are vets that don't participate in training camp, don't participate in preseason, and are ready to week one. The vets that deserve that benefit of the doubt are future Hall of Famers, not Nate Davis, who, when he was on the field last year, he was okay, but he's not anyone that is
He's not
worthy
his
of.
contract good.
Right. He's not his contract good. And he's not anyone that's worthy of this prima donna treatment that he seems to be going through for the second straight camp.
Yeah, and what do teammates think about that too? I mean, you gotta wonder that. I mean, you gotta because linemen get injured all the time, and they see him sitting on the sidelines, and they're working their butt off, even through some pain. It's like, what does that make other people think?
Right.
You know, you can't help but wonder.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I'm interested to see what Nate Davis stuff is going to be a part of Hard Knocks too, because
yeah,
it's a big story up here. So
yeah.
wouldn't
I
put it
mean, well,
past Hard Knocks to be talking about it.
and here's the thing. I mean, if you listen to the score, you heard the frustration with the beat reporter Mark Rody today.
Yeah.
Is the Bears, since they made the decision to move with Caleb Williams as a quarterback, have done everything right. We've said it on this podcast. We were done before, we're not now. That can be true for the Bears football department. But if that's the case, we have to see it with the offensive line. We can't keep seeing this patchwork year after year after year. You want to know why the Detroit Lions are good? Is because they're good on both sides of the ball. That offensive line that
Yeah.
Detroit has
It's
is
so good.
phenomenal. Yeah.
It's going to be fun. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like Nate Davis. Yeah, I love how Eberflus is handling it. He was like, I want to
Yeah.
see effort. I want my guys on the field that are putting forth the effort. So
Yeah.
I don't think he has any problems benching Nate Davis.
I
Maybe,
went
yeah.
and that's kind of the problem with the Bears offensive line is in a vacuum, yes, he shouldn't have a problem benching Nate Davis. But what that does? That moves Ryan Bates to right guard. Now, between Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton, the Bears were hoping that Ryan Bates would be the center. So it creates this trickle down effect, which if you knew this was the Nate Davis you were going to be getting, whether or not they did or not, you had the tape from last year. He wasn't anything to solidify our starting job. So I would have liked the Bears to paid a little bit more attention to the offensive line.
Me
Yes, they use
too.
yes, they use a third round draft pick, but he's still on the NRI list. He's probably going to open the season on the pup list. And you just wonder, is the offensive line going to be the reason why we see good from Caleb Williams, but we don't see it from Caleb Williams?
I kind of have faith that Ryan Poles is going to be like, I need to beef up this offensive line and can go out and do it.
Well,
Well,
they structured DJ Moore's contract to leave room.
yep. I was about to say, with
Yeah.
DJ's Moore, they actually gave him about $21 million in cap space. So
That ain't nothing.
they have space. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you imagine? They bring somebody in. They're just like, F you, Nate Davis.
Well, if you're not going to play, you got to bring in somebody who
Yeah.
will.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Anything else, boys?
Lonzo Ball playing 5-5 this week.
Let's go.
We're back. Bulls are back. I'm all
Bulls are
in.
back.
I'm saying that.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
God,
I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
no.
How quick is this 5-on-5?
I don't know. I just saw a clip. It was in slow mo. So I'm like, okay. So it's fine.
No, that wasn't slow mo. That was actually the speed.
Was it? Was it? I will say, on a bad Bulls team, and I hate I'm saying this, Josh Giddey's gonna be fun to watch. I've been watching him. in
I'm
Olympic.
not ready to talk about the Bulls yet.
Yeah, neither
I'm
am
not.
I
I'm
know.
not-
I was just watching. I'm saying, just watch.
Well,
him in the
Giddy's
Olympics.
having fun playing for his country for medals. Like he's not gonna be playing for anything up here.
I mean, on a bad Bulls team, we need something to watch.
I.
I'm not doing it yet. It's August. Talk to me in November.
I haven't thought about the Bulls since the draft. Haven't even thought
That
about
sounds
them.
about right. That sounds about right.
So whatever. All right, boys. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
We will Cubs Sox this weekend. Then they go to Cleveland. We'll be back next week for another Hard Knocks recap. We'll be back for talk Cubs. We'll talk Sox. We can talk Bulls. I don't care.
No problem.
But Tribal Jeep is back. Claws up.
Friday Night SmackDown. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
This
Back
I,
goes
this
up.
I can.
all these handles.
There's so much. There's so much we're
Yeah.
doing.
Tribal Chief, claws up, bad girls up. I don't know.
It's our
That's
secret
it.
handshake.
Go Chicago, man. Yeah,
Go Chicago.
go
Yeah.
Chicago. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.
All right. See ya.